Hello everyone.
Buonasera, hi, hello, good evening.
Hello.
This evening we are here with our Francesca Reading, the voice of Maxentius Ammianus, and from the next month on, she will be also the voice of Fortuna Caesaris, and we are very proud to cooperate with her because she's a very expert translator. She's a book lover and literature lover, and so the perfect person to translate a story as Fortuna Caesaris now on Kickstarter for Nubes. So, Francesca,
Yes.
tell us something about you, your story, your career. Tell us everything.
Well, Francesca Reading or Reading, I mean, nomen omen, we could say. I mean, my name is Reading, like the town, but everyone pronounces it wrong. But that's no problem because I love Reading. There's no worries. So I was born in 1990 in Yorkshire, in Holland, from an English father and an Italian mother who was born in Rome, coincidentally. And until I was 7, I lived in England, and when I came to Italy, where I had to learn the language kind of like very quickly, but it helped that I had a lot of books and comic books in both languages. So that helped me to learn the language, having the same version of every book and every comic. And even the VHSs like of Aladdin, I had it in English and in Italian, so I would watch the same scene and try to learn the different phrases. So I learned Italian and I got pretty good at it because I can speak. I'm bilingual now, and I was then I did the liceo linguistico, which means I was at a high school at a language kind of like field. And after that, I decided I didn't want to do languages for a while and I wanted to do comics. So I went to Scuola del Fumetto in Milan, where I finished in 2012. And then I started working as an interpreter and a translator. And then I started working for Tatai Lab, for Lumina.
Okay, now I'll show okay, here it is, the cover of your first comic translation.
We started this it must have been 9 years ago. Emanuele did a wonderful job with the crowdfunding, and Linda, and they needed someone to translate. And since I was such a fan of her work, I was like, I will do anything, just let me translate it. They didn't know me at the time, but then they saw what I did, and they enjoyed the fact that I gave my whole self, and I really wanted to understand what they wanted to say. So that was, as a translator, they appreciated it. I didn't want to just do the literal translation, but I wanted to understand what they wanted to say.
And I think this is the main difference, because we talked a lot about it, a difference between interpreter and translator.
Yeah,
translator,
I mean,
yeah,
interpreters, they have to say exactly what is said. I mean, simultaneous interpreting, it's insane. They've got to say the exact same thing within 1/4 of a second. It's really insane. I could never do it. But they've got to say exactly what is said. If not, you can have, political incidents, and you'd want to avoid those. But instead, a translator, unless you're doing scientific texts, you do put a bit of yourself into what you're writing.
Yeah, and I think this is I find it fascinating because it's another way of writing. I love to say that working on a comic book is a real job for a team, and the story begins as a story of one person that think of it, and then it became the story of more people that work on it, and everyone puts something inside. At the end of the process, we have a comic book that is a real collective job, and I think it is beautiful.
Absolutely. I mean, unless you're talking about some monsters like Sienkiewicz or others who, Dave McKean, they do it, the writing, they do the artwork, the lettering, they do everything from start to finish. But the majority of the times, even if it's not just a serial, comic, but even just something even indie like what we're doing, it is a choral effort. There's a lot of us, and each of us pull our weight, and the job and of one depends on the other.
Yeah, and I like the image of a chain. We are all rings of the chain, but this image will be back during this live. We'll talk about it later because it's in my mind. I'm thinking about it this morning. I was walking and I was thinking about it.
That's a famous panel that go around in the internet, in which there are all the jobs in the comics. The writer, the artist, the inker, the letterer, the colorist, and in every step, the image is one step more defined. It's very good at understanding how the comic book works.
Excellent metaphor, but it's true because, again, as a translator, someone asked me, do they give you the work to translate at the end once we're finished, or are you in between? And I told them that every project I've done so far has kind of been connected to crowdfunding, which is a completely different kind of like scale. But because in crowdfunding you want to eliminate the waiting time, you've got to promise whoever backs you that they'll receive a finished product. So I can't wait until, I don't know, in the case of Cesare, that Ilaria has finished drawing everything for me to translate it, because it would take another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So we work, and I work with her storyboards, with a bit of her pencils. But for a translator for comics, it's very, very important that I can see what is happening, and most importantly, how big the panel is. Because it's one thing if I translate the script and I could be, English, it's either very short or very long. There's no in between. It's either one or the other. But with comics, you have to see exactly the storyboard, and you have to see the weight every balloon has in every panel, because otherwise it just throws everything off kilter.
Yeah, it's a very complicated job, but fascinating, and I want to repeat it. It's a team job, and I love it. And we worked together in a wonderful way. I'm very satisfied. I'm really happy.
I loved working with you. I've loved working with Nubis on all 3 projects in the end, but it's a different experience with each different author in the end.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, we have here our Optimus lector, Johannes. Salve, Johannes.
Salve.
And then, go, Ni.
One-chan, this is my sister. I'm sorry.
Hi.
So it's a bit of familiar support then.
I think it's wonderful and quite Italian. I'm the exception, I think, about it. No one is supporting me, but now we show also the Kickstarter link related to Francesca. So if you want really to help this project to be known all around the world, this is the link. You have to click and share and tell people we love Francesca's job. And this is the link where you can read it.
Meanwhile,
I think I should use a wonderful English language here. So what language would Johannes be speaking?
Well, I think that for our... I'll say something, because I'll be very honest in front of everyone. I love hearing Francesca talking. I think, I don't know, it's something so elegant. I
Right,
work every day with students from USA, from the middle of USA. Francesca's accent is wonderful. It's a dream I will never fulfill, but it's a dream. So
Sonia.
Downton Abbey, I love Downton Abbey. I like it. So
Oh, well,
elegant.
Downton Abbey was actually filmed in Yorkshire, so I mean that's again.
Yeah.
part of-
Yeah, it's
But
something.
I mean, in my Yorkshire accent, I am practically the sono la terrona dell'Inghilterra, because my Yorkshire accent is very, very low. There's no, I mean, you can say tin, 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 and it's a full sentence. It's amazing. But when I've got to teach, obviously, I can't speak with a Yorkshire accent. So I've managed to modulate, maybe not receive pronunciation like the Queen, but I can make it neutral.
Yeah, but really, really, to my ears is wonderful. I really like it. And okay, our Janoko.
Louder for those in the back.
Is-
We need louder.
The secret identity of our Johannes Oculus. He's like
Yeah.
Superman. He's a Latin speaker in the evening. Okay. Okay. We want to share the link. Just a second.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, I don't know why. Okay.
Right. So
Okay,
anyway,
but we're gone. While Francesco is looking for the. Okay.
I've moved
Here it
the.
is.
Unfortunately, I'm having to use my camera phone because my computer is not.
Don't
connected.
worry. Okay. This is the link. Now there is the link where you can find Francesca's work. You find Fortuna Caesaris in 3 versions. At the end of Kickstarter, you can choose which one do you want to receive, Latin, Italian, or English by Francesca. So,
and incidentally, I only did Latin for 2 years, thank God, because my teacher hated me. But I managed to get 0 with her, which it took a lot of effort to get 0. But the one time I managed to get 9 on Piramaisistisme was after I had read Harry Potter. So I had Harry Potter in English, I had Harry Potter in Latin, I had Harry Potter in German, and Harry Potter in Russian. And that is how I learned the languages.
It's wonderful. But, well, the idea in Nubes is something like this, because a comic book with the images can help to understand what you cannot fully understand by the words. And reading in different languages, beautiful stories, captivating stories that make you curious to go on, to finish reading, to discover what is going to happen, is a very pleasant way to learn something. In this case, also languages.
Yeah, and I think Nubes, it's not like I want to keep tooting your horn, but Nubes is a very, very good publishing house, because you've got various stories. Thank you. But you've got various stories, but depending on the character you're exploring, you've got kind of like a different language, a different style. So you've got maybe a bit more literate, a bit more noble when we're talking about Maxensius.
Yeah.
But I love that with Fortuna. It's just us girls. We're talking about Calpurnia, and it's just girls doing it. that's
it's wonderful. But you know, at the beginning of the promotion, the promotion, I made a post on the social, and I introduced the team as the Spice Girls. We are missing one, but okay, it's okay all the same. I'm the sporty Spice. And it was wonderful, because also the hair.
I don't want to know which Spice I am.
No, you are not.
I think Francesca has to be the last Spice Girl, I think. Maybe.
Which one?
A posh Spice, maybe.
Okay.
I'm sporty. I'm quite sure I'm sporty. because I have to. I work every day a lot, because bus, the nearest bus is not so good, so I'm Sporty Spice. Yeah.
Sporty
Tired
Spice.
Spice. If existed Tired Spice. Well,
Tired
yeah.
Anyway.
Sleepy Spice. Well, Francesca, I want you mentioned Maxentius, and
Yes.
I would like to show some images. Okay, the
This is-
English. This is the English version.
the English version,
Yes.
and the English version is there.
So Maxentius was my first job with you. Francesco contacted me because of my work with Tata Lab, and he asked me to revise the text, but I'm such a perfectionist that I said I would like to tweak some things. And Francesco then said, all right, you do it. So Francesco gave me such complete, freedom, because I said, I think it would sound better if we do this. Because when I translate for comics, and when you're translating comics, in the end, you're translating dialogues. A dialogue has got to seem very natural. It's got to be direct. It's got to be in the point, and you've got to follow a certain rhythm. And I'm not going. It's not easy if you're not a mother tongue to be able to do some things, and especially even if you're a mother tongue, if you don't know comics, you don't know the rhythm and you don't know the time. You don't know. So maybe you would translate a line and it would be a bit heavy, and then the comic wouldn't work. So that was my first approach with Maxentius, which I adored, by the way, because I managed to show one thing which I do enjoy doing, which is when you differentiate characters because of how they talk.
Yeah, because I want to show a picture of Maxentius. Just a second. Okay. When we talked about Maxentius, it was very interesting what you said about the dimension of the balloons, so the words, because it's a very a lot of people in the no, it's not true what I was about to say, because there is a strong difference between Maxentius and his rival Constantinus. Constantinus grew up in a military environment, so he's more brutal also in talking. Maxentius is a cultivated man, is a philosopher, a spiritual person, so their way to express their feeling, their ideas is totally different. But also we have to keep the rhythm. The fact that Maxentius is a philosopher doesn't mean that we have to write a lot of text. The facts and the rhythm are
the way that I got around that was with Constantine, who, let's be honest, Constantine is an emperor. He was born rich. He knew he would be important. He knew his importance, and he knew how important he was right then. So I imagined him using a language kind of like a bit snooty, a bit snobbish. He would use adjectives and adverbs as if he was like in Jane Austen, Regency.
Yeah.
Maxentius, instead, he's a learned man. He's a self-made man. So he uses big words, but he knows how to use them because he learned from books. So he doesn't use adjectives just to make himself sound important. He uses adjectives because he knows what they mean. And that was the big difference when I translated it.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful what you're saying, because really it's an entire universe.
I think translators, a lot of people don't understand, especially because now a lot of translators were just like a click and do it kind of like thing. But the job of translators is to get people to understand something that is not theirs. So how can I make someone understand a culture, a time, a country, a language that isn't theirs? And so, yes, you translate what it is, but you also have to adapt it.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
That's
And
the way we called you for just to control the translation, but then you became the translator of Maxentius
Yeah,
because
well,
you
I'm
redone
so-
everything, so you are a
I'm
translator,
so proud
and that's it.
because I mean, some people could be offended by how, you know, nitpicky I was, but instead you took it on and
No, it's the reason we want you to work in our books.
it's amazing. I love it. I love working because every different project, again, it's different characters, it's different time periods. I mean, we've got the Ammianos where you've got the Goths and the Ostrogoths
now.
and but it's it gives me different it's a different challenge. I can't use the same plan every time. I can't.
Okay, now, sorry, just a second, because I have to speak cat now.
Johannes is asking something.
Okay, now I want. Well,
Yes, the
Yana, okay, she's the queen. Hello.
the queen of the house.
Oh, hello, little black
And
cat.
she's big cat.
So, Johannes, thank you. A translator's job is a challenging one. I studied translation at university, but chose teaching. Well, again, kudos to you, because I teach only privately, because I could never think of doing a class, because it's a big task. So thank you very much.
And there is another comment. Hello, Neutrino. I think I know who you are. On Instagram, we chat a lot on Instagram in comments. Hi.
Yes, translating is not just grammar. I mean, if you translated just for grammar, I mean, if we could do like error 404 and etc., it would be that, because can you imagine when you've got to translate something from German or English or is Icelandic? No.
Well, okay.
Thank you very much,
Ooh,
Margherita.
thank you. Grazie, Marghe.
Okay, and we were talking about how translating is I don't know, like play, because you have to enter in the different characters, times, and so way of talking, of thinking, and express what you are thinking. And so we can talk about Ammianus, totally
Yes,
different
Ammianus.
time period. And
Here it is, Ammianus.
We have
and
Ammianus.
very peculiar characters, because are
Now, shall we talk about the language first, or shall we talk about the artistic point first?
whatever you like.
Right, so artistically, the part that I loved the most was when we had to translate a piece of Res Gesta by Ammianus,
Okay.
and he was speaking about an eclipse.
Oh, well, I took a screenshot about it, but I don't know where it is. Just
Don't worry, I
second.
can make up some talking while we find it.
Okay.
The script, it was a quote of because Nubes is wonderful, because they actually put most of the time actual quotes, or like in Sonia's case now for Caesar, she rethinks some of them because she wants to render them.
Okay, we couldn't hear you for a technical problem. You were saying?
I was saying that Nubes is great because when we do quotations with quotes from Latin, we either have the exact piece, or we take the piece but we slightly, reinterpret it. But this piece by Ammianus, I remember it because it was talking about an eclipse where it was the Middle Ages, it was mayhem, everything was going badly. There were barbarians going everywhere, there was famine, and then was an eclipse. And in Italian, they were talking about the eclipse, and we said something about a luna falce, which means a sickle moon. But since, yes, again, since I had actually seen this panel beforehand, and I saw that there was the cattle dead, I wanted to use the terminology the horned moon, because I saw that one of the translations said horned moon instead of sickle moon, but since we saw cattle, I thought it was even more, appropriate.
Yeah,
And
this is the image from the comic book.
Yeah. I love doing that, because I went to look up the various English translations of this Latin piece, and obviously, depending on the century, a lot of it changed. But when I read horned moon and then I saw that was cattle, I said, we have to use horned moon. We have to. And then Marco and Francesco said, all right, if you really want to do it, then do it. This is not what we're...
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, no, that. And the other thing with Ammianus, which was really interesting, and again, it's what I enjoy doing, is when we have some of the Germanic tribes that are coming in, the barbarians. And it's very difficult because we wanted to kind of like give the German accent. So how do you transpose that? We do it with a very, very maybe exaggerated accent, but it worked. Here
it is. A couple of screen.
Okay.
Our beloved Swintila.
Oh yes, Swintila. But I also liked in the end when it was what's his name?
The Langobard Duke.
Yes, because when he arrived, he spoke
Gunderit.
accent, and then in the end he didn't have the accent anymore. But because he'd become a duke and he'd learned how to talk. So yes. No, Swintila, it was so cute. It was really cute. I loved this scene with the ball because it's how children, it's innocent children. They don't know anything about all of the plots of the fathers and everything. It was really, really cool. No, I enjoyed this comic book. It was really, really good. I loved it.
Yeah, and I think this in this part where at the beginning where in the moment when Swintila and Callistus talked for the first time playing with the ball.
Because the first time that I read the Italian script, I didn't know if he was talking with a lisp because he was missing a tooth. Because you know how children sometimes say, like, I've got front teeth. So.
Because in Italian it's quite easy to being the sound so different from Italian to German. It's quite easy to represent the German language. You say Victoria instead of Victoria.
But in English it would be victory. Victory.
Yeah, it's more or less the same, but in Italian it's easier if you like.
Well,
because
it's more of a difference in Italian because it's completely different sounds. So.
Yeah, it's true. But I think it's the fun thing in this comic book because it's the meeting, or not the meeting, the melting together of different cultures. In Ammianus, we do not have anymore the Roman Empire. We have several parts of Roman Empire, and something is really ending. Rome is really at the end, but something different is about to be born, Europe. And this is, I think, the very first moment.
Marco must not hear that. Because Marco Cappelli says
never.
Roman Empire.
Never going to tell Marco.
No, because Marco says the Byzantine Empire was still the Roman Empire. So we don't have to say the Roman Empire was no
Marco,
more.
We are sorry, but
Marco and I also disagreed about how far Romans got in England. Never mind, we are going to shh about it. But Ammianus was a truly marvelous piece because apart from the fact that I was telling a friend of mine He's a historian writer. He doesn't even read comic books, but he was interested in it. And he was like, it's very difficult to condense it into such a small format, because in the end we've got 50, 60 pages, give or take. And you're condensing something that, if you're reading it, it means you're interested. If you're interested in it, it means you know something. So we are already taking on our shoulders the fact that many of the readers already know some of the historical point, so we can't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
We have some compliments for you from Muon Neutrino.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Muon Neutrino, thank you. Amazing. I'm going to start blushing, and you can see I've got no blood. I've got no blood to blush. I'm a vampire.
So you'll be less white.
Yeah.
You are complaining
Yeah.
being too white.
No, thank you very much, Neutrino. Thank you. But no, I love Ammianus because, again, he said it's incredible that he went from Maxensus to Ammianus, which is literally the end of it. It's the end of it. You've got the Goths, you've got the Ostrogoths, you've got the Vandals, you've got the Longobards, you've got all sorts of tribes coming into Italy. And but still it was still Rome in the end.
More or less.
Yeah, it's a sort of, again, in this story in Ammianus. Yeah, we have the link to talk about the next story. In Ammianus, culture, books, especially
Yes.
books, are a sort of light of a lighthouse during a tempest.
Yes. Oh, yes. The lighthouse that guided you in the darkness of the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. Yes.
And the words from ancient Rome will go on in the future and will give light to the path of the characters of this comic book. And
yeah, it was.
Sorry.
Yes. Sorry.
No, I think that is a topic that is in quite all Nubes comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are really, I don't know how to say, book lover, literature lover, and it's something
we're bookworms.
Yeah.
We can open a debate. Middle Ages were not dark.
Well,
excuse me.
The passage between two eras is dark. In any case, it doesn't matter which is the age, but the moment where we are changing are very difficult.
So depending even from the zones, because in the East, in the Eastern Roman Empire, was not dark, but in the West, in Italy, was dark. Maybe elsewhere not, but here.
But in England, it was illumination. We were getting better and better in England, so, because we're starting very low down.
As a bit less, thanks to Emperor Justinian.
Well, in the Italian peninsula, in Ammianus, we show this. There was the plague, and at the end of the plague, there were so few people in
the war, the plague, and the invasion from the Longobards.
Yeah, when Longobards arrived, they didn't find people. The number of people living in Italy really fell down, and a lot, and the writing quite disappeared. It's shocking, but quite disappeared.
If we want to talk about writing, in England, the Romans brought all of the culture, all of it. Then the Romans left, and it was conquered by the Normans, and then it was conquered by the Saxons and the Vikings. But after that, there was a kind of like Renaissance, like Umanesimo, and everyone started evolving. Everyone started evolving because since everything was going very well, they started moving around the continent, especially to Italy. And we were translating Petrarca, Dante, Boccaccio. And they went to Rome and they started reading the original texts of Ovidio, Virgilio, etc. And so then they brought back to England all of this knowledge, which did not work because in England, no one even spoke English, because the nobles spoke French or Latin and everyone else spoke German. So, I mean, no one knew what to translate in anything, what is happening. But then a miracle happened, and they managed in 10 years to translate 2,000 texts. 2,000. It's amazing that. But translating that, not only did we manage to bring the Petrarchan sonnet, and then Shakespeare got his sonnet from that, but we got all of the ancient knowledge. We got Livy, we got Cicero, we got Ovid. Everyone loves Ovid. I mean, how much of Shakespeare and the metaphysics are about the metamorphosis? Everything is about them. So, incredibly, the fact that England had nothing, they came here to Italy and they absorbed it like a sponge, and then they brought it back to England, and then they tried to translate it as it was, and they thought, oh, well, that's not going to work because English doesn't no. And so then they started to evolve the language. And that's how English is so good, because we've evolved thanks to the classic literature.
Yeah, and again, there is a chain. It's like every author is a ring and gives something to the other and to the other, to the other, until us. And it's wonderful.
Well, Piramontis, Tristan and Isolde, Romeo and Juliet. We've got 3.
And you named someone before. Someone translated, someone that wrote a lot about French, but also about England. They tried twice to go to England, but the channel wasn't so
it
pleasant.
Wasn't forgiving, no.
It wasn't ready to the channel and to the weather, and he made a sort of sneak peek. I'm here, well, okay, bye. And romance stayed more in England later, but you talked about Caesar, and I think it's time to talk about
it is time to talk
about your latest job for Nubes, the translation of Fortuna Caesaris or Fortuna Caesaris, depends on.
Well, before I start talking about my job as a translator, would you like to talk a bit about what you wrote?
Yeah, okay. I'll try to do it with all my limits. I'm very sorry, but
I'll give you a hand if you want. I'll nudge you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And Fortuna Caesaris is an adaptation of a novel, my first historical novel. I took the rights back in last summer, and I published it again. On Nubes website, but again, translating the novel in a comic, in a screenwriting, in script writing, made the difference, because the story, the plot changed and became, from the middle of it, quite different. I think it is a story about what really made Rome so great. Just the power of legends? I don't think so. For example, also Attila was a great leader with a gigantic and powerful army, but we do not talk about the literature that Attila left us. We do not talk about philosophers of his army. And
with Attila, we talk about his destruction in the end.
Yeah, of course. But I think that Rome went around Europe and maybe took Europe with the power of its legions, but stayed there. And I think in a certain way it stays till now because of the culture. And Fortuna Caesaris is a story about what made Rome so strong. It was the people, the men, the women, the literature, the philosophy, Mos Maiorum, and everything that had such a strong impact and really shaped the culture and the society of an entire continent. And it's a story. This story takes place in the 1st century before Christ, an age of blood and poetry, because it's a very violent period, a lot of civil wars, but also the most beautiful poets that Rome.
We're talking about Lucretius, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm really in love with them all, and it's really the end. We are at the end of the Republic. Okay, we are talking about Caesar, but Caesar is not the main character in this comic book. He made history. He wrote history. He was also part of other comic books like Asterix. So why should he be also here in my comic book the main character? No, he's not. He's another person. He's Calpurnia. His third and latest wife. And a young woman that in TV, in novels.
Well, she grew up between poets, with a very doting rich father, but she wanted for nothing. But she was a very learned woman.
Yeah, because of course we are. Everyone says that we do not know anything about Calpurnia. I don't think it's true. But we know a couple of things that, of course, are not certainties, but give us clues, very important clues about who she was. Because if you can survive Gallic War, Civil War, the scandal of Cleopatra, and you are still there at the side of Caesar in the morning of the Ides of March, and you have a big fault because you didn't give birth to a child, but you are still there, and that's incredible. That means something.
I mean, obviously, Rome had a problem. Even if you had a female child, she could not be your heir. If you had a male child out of matrimony, difficult. Yes. So Caesar with Calpurnia, he wanted the perfect wife, the perfect heir.
Yeah, but the problem is that we have an idea of perfection. We think, I know what is perfection. I think what is going to happen in my life. I know because I have the love of the gods. I'm quite a god myself. But we are not gods. We do not know what is the real perfection, what is our destiny. We think to shape our destiny, while our destiny is shaping itself. And that's what happened. I don't know, how do you say in English la profezia che si autoavvera?
Yeah?
Profezia che si autoavvera.
It's a self-actuating prophecy.
Okay, the story is about the fictional part is about.
Think about Macbeth. Macbeth, he hears this, and he tries. I mean, even if it's not Macbeth, but it's Oedipus. He hears something. He tries to do everything to not make it happen, but it happens anyway.
Yeah, that is what is going to happen in this comic book. We do not say anything more.
Spoiler alert.
What we say. Exactly. And
I mean, we all know that Caesar dies. I mean, I think everyone knows it.
Exactly. I think that everyone knows who killed Caesar, but we just say something, just one thing. There is a secret character in this story. Yeah. And you will never guess who he is. Just read, and there is a plot twist at the end. And you will say exactly as the characters inside the comic book, Gosh.
What?
It was
Quoi? What?
yeah. And okay. Hello.
So, Sonia,
Hi Marina. Hi Marina.
everyone that knows about, I mean, everyone, we're going to get to it. Everyone knows about the Ides of March.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to see the Ides of March depicted in a quite different way, very artistic, very intense, just by the comic book, is about to be finished, because Ilaria is coloring the last pages, and it will be at your home. It will be delivered by express courier at the end of April. So go to the Kickstarter, to the link we provided, and book your copy. Also, see and read again the Ides of March.
What was the big question for us? A big question for us, for both of us, was, well, you read obviously Suetonius and Plutarch in Latin probably, and then in Italian, and I, obviously not knowing Latin, I read it in Italian and English. But how do we know what happened that day?
Well, just a second. Oh, okay.
Francesco's left. Francesco heard the question and he ran.
Okay. No, Francesco is the killer. I don't know. He moved away. Why?
He had Ides of March. No, I'm not. No, so you were telling me that because I loved translating that scene for you, because I could tell that you'd put various elements together and you'd managed to combine it very, very well. You told me that you read Plutarch for one thing and Suetonius for another.
Yeah, it's true, because Plutarch is more theatrical, is more pictorial. You can quite see what he writes, but he also is sort of, I don't know, a sort of Christopher Nolan, the ancient
well, he describes everything outside.
Yeah, so he describes a lot of the atmosphere. For example, the night before the Ides of March, when there is the famous Calpurnia's dream. In the comic book is quite different, because I try to use a different approach. There is a dream, but what she dreams of is something different. It's not what the tradition says. It's something related to an experience that changed her perspective during the story.
Which we're not going to say, but
yeah, we do not. But you will discover reading.
You can find out, wink, wink. And
yeah, and in Plutarch there is this detail of the wind that unpredictably opens the window, and this sort of spooky moonlight enter the rooms, and light a woman that is crying, is sleeping and crying, and Caesar.
Shakespeare took from this when he was doing Macbeth, obviously.
Yeah, okay, but every storyteller loves Plutarch.
Yes.
You can, if you like storytelling, you cannot.
I mean, even Lars von Trier likes Plutarch. Because
I think it's impossible not to love him, because he has this way of telling the lives of ancient people, and so vivid that you really feel them close.
Well, his story, it was in English, it was translated by North, Parallel Lives, Vite Parallele. He wanted to put the lives of Greek characters next to lives of Roman characters. And can you imagine for an English person to read that stuff? What Greek, Roman, and what am I doing? And what? Why? I mean, how? I don't even know how to write. Maybe. I mean, it's why. It's amazing.
I think that when I was, I don't know, 15, I was quite barbarian, very, very rough. And when I read Plutarch for the first time, translated in Italian, of course, because I was very rough, I was barbaric.
Yes, I was a barbarian.
So cool.
Latin, of course.
Reading this, I thought, wow, they are really cool. I love them. They are better than actors.
Oh God! I mean, I have got a very, very well-worn copy of Metamorphosis by Ovidio, because I'm sorry, but when I had already seen a lot of Bernini's statues, but then I read Metamorphosis and I was like, what? Why? And it's just, it's amazing. Ovid was amazing, and at least 3 of Shakespeare's comedies are Ovid.
Yeah. And it's what I was telling to you about the chain. Ovid with the ring, and then
Oscar. So,
yeah.
And incredibly, then the Restoration in England, but then there was kind of like a down point in like, let's say, the papacy and Italian culture. But then in the 1800s and 1700s, then the Italians were starting to reconnect to the English people, and it was just kind of like, why? But obviously Leopardi connected to the Romantics, and the Romantics were connected to Petrarch. How is that happening?
Yeah, and Leopardi was also connected.
I love Leopardi. I mean, this is. I mean, can you see how many things I've?
Yeah. I love Leopardi, and he was also connected to Lucretius. That appears in the comic book. And fun fact, fun moment.
Yes, we've gone completely off topic, but
the last poetry of Leopardi, La Ginestra, was written during an eruption of Mount Vesuvius.
Yes.
And close to Mount Vesuvius, there is Herculaneum, and with the villa of Papyrus, that is supposed to be the villa of Lucius Piso, father of Calpurnia. Yeah. He was a sort of protector of philosopher, and especially Philodemus.
Molly Brown of the situation, because Molly Brown was the one who protected, let's say, Modigliani, Picasso, Sautin. She protected painters. And in Shakespeare time, we had, what was it, Sidney Phillips, and she gave up her house for Charles Marlowe, the one who wrote Dr. Faustus, and various others. I mean, you've always had these protectorates of the arts, because the arts you've always had to, let's say, you've always had to protect artists.
Yeah, and a way to nowadays way to protect artists is part of the starter. Click on the link you can see in the comment, and support the project. Be our Pisa.
You can protect artists if you.
Well, okay.
Shall we just finish with that famous scene with Julius Caesar? So everyone knows the phrase "tu quoque, Bruto, fili me," but that's not exactly what he said, was it?
Yeah, exactly, because there are several versions. Maybe in this last moment, suffering, he talked in Greek. Or maybe he said something different, but I think that the main difference is the way ancient authors tell us about this very moment, about the morning of the Ides of March, in their different styles, even if Caesar died. Caesar died, and we know it.
There is a fact.
The way
died. But how did it happen? Here we're talking about Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino adds so much with the dialogue and the, let's say, montage. So you can have the same fact, but you can put it in a very more interesting way.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think I made a mess with my. Oh, wow. Because I wanted to show the.
The pages in English.
Yeah, the pages in English. Where are? Ah, yeah, because you did it. I did not.
Francesco.
It's my fault. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
because you did it and I do not.
But I mean, again, Suetonius, he also said that Caesar said, "But this is violence. Why this is violence?" Yeah, in some
And we are about to show it. Just a second.
But and then supposedly, after saying that and putting out a gasp after a first stab, he used his tunic and covered himself.
Yeah, quite to die with more dignity. But I choose the Suetonius version of the first part of the Ides of March because I think Suetonius is more synthetic. He uses less words. He's not so vivid, so describe him as Plutarch. And these highlight the hardness of violence. Violence is like a knife. It's metallic.
But in Suetonius it says "Ista quidem vis est." This is violence. I mean, even in English, which these words for violence, you can tell that there's a certain. We see violence as a snake. Like.
Yeah, but and I also I don't know. It makes me think of knives.
Yes.
The sound. This so violence. Zack.
Violence.
Violence. Yeah, I think it's the sound.
English is one of the most cinematic languages. We have got a lot of verbs which are banging, crashing, and but violence, assassin, hurt. I mean, a lot of what we say, we already say it with how we pronounce it.
Yeah, you see, it's wonderful talking about these things. I really, and I think again, this is a proof how your job is really elevated. Is something very special, is something unique, is something of a big value, and I want to remark it because Nubes publish very few comic books because we really use a lot of time and effort to have the best cooperator, the best artists, the best translators to really nothing is left to chance.
Nothing is left to chance. I mean, I literally made Francesco and Marco over Janus go mad over what to use for some words. But again, also with Sonia, I asked you one thing.
Yes, I remember.
Yes, you remember. Oh, Francesco's appeared. But
I think he will do it during the last time.
But no, yeah, remember Sonia when because obviously the crowdfunding campaign is closing, so I'm closing my translation. And I obviously, after I've done my first, let's say, version, I want to talk with who wrote it because that's obvious. I mean, I think it would be very arrogant of me to just give a version of a translation and say, here, take it. I don't like that. I want to hear what you thought, what you wanted to express in certain moments, especially because there are some things that only you could know because I asked you about them. I mean,
exactly. And now I show one of the examples.
Yeah. And so I mean, obviously, in Italian, you can have a you don't have to express the subject. For instance, in English, you have to. You cannot have a complete sentence if you say went to the docks. That makes absolutely no sense in English. We need to say who. we need a pronoun. But in Italian, we just use a verb. So what happens? I had to ask Sonia, who are you talking about? Are you talking about Caesar? Are you talking about Cleopatra? What is happening?
Yeah, in Italian it's normal, especially in dialogues, especially in dialogues like, I don't know, here there are 3 women at the market and they're talking, they're gossiping. Yeah, and yeah, I try to. Yeah, okay.
Yay.
Yeah.
So here, where she says, and now she is. In Italian, it was no subject.
Now, yeah, it's totally different because it's usual in this kind of dialogue not to say the subject, to avoid saying the subject each time. And here it was not possible. So the first question that Francesca asked me was, who?
Who are we talking about? Are we talking about Cleopatra? Are we talking about Caesar? What is happening? He, she, what?
It's important. It's really important. And I like it. I like to see how in how many different ways a story can really bloom. It's different. It's like it's the same flower, but in different colors, in different shades of colors. And it's I love it. I love it because books, because stories are something alive, and they are alive because all
and
the
they
people.
And living on. Every time that we translate, every time that we talk about them, we're giving more life into it.
Yeah, it's true, and we also allow this life to go on, to pass to the reader, and maybe this comic book, whichever story we are talking about, will be inspiration for other stories in the future.
Absolutely.
And it's the chain, the matryoshka we were talking about before. It's a gigantic and wonderful game of people, of storytellers that in different way they interlace to one another, and in every storyteller there are all the others. And
I like to think about the Germanic, the Norse gods, where the poets were those that were, blessed by Odin, but they were the ones who managed to understand Yggdrasil. So all of the various branches and everything, they could understand the past and the present and the future. Poets, artists, they can understand everything. I mean, it's really cool, but think about it. El Greco managed to paint something that wasn't possible in his time and age. Da Vinci managed to do I don't know what, because Jesus. And I mean, and then we've got Rome. Rome was, how much did it manage to go forward in every century? It's incredible. It's incredible. And you cannot believe in a deity, you cannot believe in a religion, but we have got to believe in human marvel, and human marvel has managed to, we managed to do amazing things. And what we do, language and the arts and science, and whatever we do and however we transpose it every century will be then what people in the future will see.
I don't know if you read what is written in Nuba's website in our presentation. We use Kickstarter also to decide how many copies of a book we have to print, because for us environment is important, because this is the only planet with the Parthenon in Athens. So it's something so beautiful that just for this our planet deserves. And you cannot believe in gods, but you have to believe in humans, because if we want, we can really do wonderful things.
Lovely. So, have we said everything we could say? Probably not. We could go on for hours, but
yeah. But I'm so sorry because I have not the full control of other languages, but I love the talking about the power of each word, each sound, the etymology. Is something that I really love, and I love talking about. It's something that makes me feel alive. So I also could go on and on, but I think it's time to ask if there are questions.
Does anyone have any questions for the class?
Because otherwise we have questions for you.
Seconds.
Have you booked your copy of Fortuna Caesaris? If not, go on the link that is in the comments and go.
So,
do it.
Anyone was really interested at the beginning, you asked me, it's really cool about a translator's job or a linguist. I think Sonia and Francesca and I would like to do more videos in English. So if you want, just keep connected.
And if you also have subjects, you want to suggest us some subjects to talk about, write in the comment or write to info@nubes.live. And
please don't ask me to do the full Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. I will do it. I won't thank you for it, but I can probably do the Brutus speech, because you know what is great about Julius Caesar by Shakespeare? He tries to ask if regicide is right. I mean, regicide is everywhere in Shakespeare. You've got it in Hamlet, you've got it in Macbeth, you've got it in King Lear. But in Julius Caesar, he actually asks a question: is it right to kill Caesar? And how does he ask that? He makes Brutus the main character. So Brutus is the one who says, "Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears." And he is the one who asks you, "But would you have seen him bring you to ruin?" And everyone is like, well, oh yeah, maybe. Oh, hello, French.
Yeah.
And yay! Shakespeare.
Oh,
Yes, I need some. I need a laurel, but Brutus is the main character, because in the end, Shakespeare has Caesar die in the third act, which is kind of like in a lot. But all of the fourth act is Brutus. Brutus is amazing. He's really, really cool, though.
Do you know that in a forum, sometimes on the 15th of March, you can find people playing Shakespeare around?
Whoa, I love it.
I was in forum and I met a company, a theatrical company made of people who is in jail and to recover. For rehabilitation.
No, I love it.
And some of them also played in a movie called Cesare deve morire from Fratelli Italiani.
I saw Cesare deve morire.
And I met a man with gray hair. It was incredibly good. I don't remember. Maybe he was playing Cassius. Oh no, he played Cassius in the movie. And in this with this company was playing maybe Antonius, but we talked a bit about this activity, and it was incredible because he told me why he was in jail. He had a very tragic and violent life, but through literature and through theater, he started a very new life. He was aware of the stains in his conscience, but he was also looking at the present thanks to the art. It was wonderful.
Because, I mean, in the end, let's be honest, Julius Caesar, I'm not going to say exactly how I would like to describe him. Let's say he was an excellent general, excellent military man, he was a difficult person. He was a very, very difficult person. He created many, many problems for many, many people, but he couldn't have continued as he was. He couldn't. It went beyond of what Rome could have. The Senate couldn't permit it. It couldn't.
Well, this is a very complicated subject. We have a lot of about, because I have my idea after reading tons of books about but it can be a bit spoiler. Well,
yeah,
the problem is that if we talk about Rome had not a constitution in modern sense.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about a sort of constitution that didn't exist, the problem was that the Republic was dead because of the start dying after the big amount of money that Rome earned after it won the war against Carthagine, and Carthagine, okay. And after that war, Rome really changed. It was a republic, but republic was slowly dying, was more an oligarchy, and all the properties was in the hands of very few people, aristocrats that stayed in senates. So of course Rome was not able anymore to go on as a republic, but Caesar had not a solution. He was a good soldier, but
he was an excellent soldier.
Not a political person.
He was a terrible politician, terrible, because he didn't think of the consequences.
No, I disagree. He
okay.
thought about, but I had tons of books about, he thought about the consequences, but he had no solution.
So if I don't have a solution, I'll do it anyway?
No, yes. He had a lot, he did a lot. Also the leges Juliae, that was very important for the redistribution of the land. He also made the Senate more modern, more open to other people, because Rome was about to become an empire. But it was in a position.
It's like the House of Lords that obviously the Senate didn't want to be more open.
Yeah, but that's why the Senate was about to die, because he refuted the change. The change was yet there. The main problem with the Roman Empire was there was not a constitutional solution of this problem. You had to have the Senate. You have to honor the Senate, even if the Senate had no power anymore, even in the late empire. The problem is that Caesar went very far, but it couldn't go on nor go back. In a point of stagnation, he couldn't find a solution. A solution was incredibly different, and Rome had to face another third civil war in a century to find this solution, because the first civil war was between Marius and Sylla, two big generals, two big soldiers.
It was like an ego part.
Yeah, no, they were a sort of pre-emperors, I think. Not emperors, nor dictators, nor kings, nothing. Just very powerful men to whom all the political powers look at. But they stayed on a military level.
Okay, so Sylla, Mario.
The war against Caesar and Pompeius was more about
Pompeius
was more about a sort of two pre-emperors. They had
Pompeius was in the Senate.
Pompeius
was in the Senate, wasn't he?
Pompeius was also general. Pompeius won.
But he was a senator, but Caesar wasn't in the Senate when
No,
he
they,
was
they were both senators.
they were both senators, okay.
They were both
But
senators.
I thought that Pompeius was a senator because he was from an ancient family and Caesar
No,
wasn't.
they were both senators,
Yeah.
and nevertheless they had their army.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, because at a certain point, the let's say boys of the family, they were army soldiers.
Yeah, and they were both senators, but both was very powerful and were sort of pre-emperors, but pre-emperors without a solution. The solution came at the end of the Third Civil War, the one with Antonius and Octavius, the future Augustus, one against the other. Antonius, he was not at all.
Mark Anthony, just
Mark Anthony, okay, wasn't political at all. His political line was Cleopatra.
He was like Lancelot or Galahad. He was he was
a soldier.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't think what he was doing. He did it.
Mark Antony's mind was in Cleopatra because she was intelligent.
Not in Cleopatra, but
inside the brain of Cleopatra had such a big brain that can contain the mind of
next comic Cleopatra.
Yeah, with all with the 9 languages she spoke.
God, I bet she was born in Alexandria, and Alexandria had the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things, I understand conquest, I understand everything, but you do not burn books.
The books were burned by Muslims. I'm sorry. This is a fake.
Yes, but I mean, even Bulgakov, when he's talking Master and Margarita, you never burn books. Never burn books.
But it wasn't the Romans. It wasn't the Romans. It is a sort of fake.
Yes, but I mean, the Catholics burned books, when Luther burned books, when everyone burned books at some of the Protestants. Everyone has burned books at some point. Don't burn books. Don't read them.
I agree, but wasn't the Romans. The Egypt was quite burning by itself, and yet Cleopatra had an idea because she was the queen of a powerful kingdom.
Cleopatra was the descendant of a dynasty. It's not exactly, was not the success. She was a successor. She wasn't exactly the descendant. Let's put it that way. But she controlled a lot of the Adriatic, which means that she controlled a lot of the world at that point.
Yeah, and her idea, of course, was more of something similar to an Eastern monarchy, something that Romans hate. And at the end of the war, the Third Civil War, Octavianus came out with the idea of the princeps, primus inter pares. That means I'm the emperor, but I'm not telling you that I am. I'm the one who rules, but I'm not telling you, Senate, that I am the leader. And you are here. I honor you. I tell you, you are beautiful. You are important. I love you. But I am the one who takes the decisions. And the main problem was that it was a very complicated constitutional crisis.
And especially, what did we say? They didn't forgive him, but he forgave them.
Yeah. And at the end,
because everyone was bitter, because if he had, decapitated, I don't know what they did in ancient Rome. I don't think they hung people.
Sometimes when they have to kill, they do not look at the way. They just kill. They had your head. Okay. Cicero was decapitated by Mark Antony.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, obviously it wasn't hanging, because hanging was why? Why do I need to use rope to do this? Why? It's
less practical. Use the rope.
Practical, so why? And But obviously, we were saying the other day, Caesar did the big sin of forgiving his enemies, and he forgave the enemies that he did actually have, relations with. I mean, obviously Cassius and obviously Brutus, obviously he had some form of relations already with them, but he forgave them, and by forgiving them, they had to give him respect, and that was the end. They were bitter.
It's not a very political move. In fact, Octavius didn't forgive anyone.
No, I mean he
nor
probably
his,
learned from
nor his
Caesar,
daughter.
because Caesar left his murderers behind. So yeah.
And Octavianus never forget anything. He also nor his daughter dying. And also the ashes of Julia. Octavianus.
What happened with Julia?
Julia was exiled in Pandataria, Ventotene, an island wonderful now. I want to be exiled in Pandataria. Please, Augustus, exile me.
Yes, let me go there. It's okay.
Yeah, but now with with the technology, with the food, with the water, she spent years and years in a very harsh exile. At the end of it, her latest husband, Tiberius, let her die of hunger.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
she finished very bad because she could come back in Italy at the end of Augustus, of his father. And but the husband, Julia's husband, Tiberius, the new emperor, didn't want her back, and so she just died without food, less water, less food, and she like fire without air. Very, very sad story. And the saddest thing is that Augustus didn't allow the ashes of Julia to stay with his ashes in a mausoleum. And
but why?
But it seems that Julia tried to was in a plot against him, or was sympathizing for a plot against him. And Augustus learned Caesar lesson very well, and he didn't forgive anyone. The story of Julia's story is quite mysterious, because also Augustus, we have the memory of him like a man of peace, of justice, but peace and justice
you can only get
come with
that
a price.
Come
with a price. They are not for free. And he was
many who look at. Well, I mean, Charlemagne. He was an emperor who actually conquered, I don't know how many countries, but there was Papa Giuliano, Papa Giulio. He was the warrior pope.
Yeah,
no country would rebel, obviously, because a pope would arrive on horseback and he would try and do him out.
Yeah, but for a pope to destroy society, one word was enough. Scomunica. Scomunica was enough. It was a sort of gun at the head of emperors later in history. For example,
my darling, if we can continue as much as you want, but
I would like to, but I think we cannot.
We think we cannot. So, because if not, I would excuse myself to the ladies for a minute. But if we have to close, we shall close.
Yeah, but I want to remind you to click on this link.
Please click on the link, darling.
Use this link, this one link. You will find it also in the comment, in the description. Please use
also,
this one.
hear more about
One.
Roman history, a bit of Latin literature, we'll probably be able to get something out in the pans, won't we?
Yeah, and also the recommendation, read a lot of story because it's such fun, and you find yourself in the middle of the night talking about popes and emperors and guns and decapitations and blood and other funny things. So it's really worthwhile.
Continue reading a lot of history, my darlings, and never give up on languages, because languages are a key to everything.
Yeah, and languages allow you to read more history, more stories about history. So.
Because if you think that anything is too absurd, think it has always happened already, and most of it has happened with the popes.
Yeah.
I swear to God. I mean, there was practically a skater boy pope. I swear to God, it happened.
And I will greet you spelling just one word, scomunica.
Scomunica.
It will be our
All right, so thank you very much, Sonia, who is the lovely author of Fortuna Caesaris. Thank you very much for Francesco, who is somewhere in the background, but I'm sure he's yes, serious Francesco.
There I am.
I think he didn't listen to us. He's starting working, lettering.
I was lettering, yeah.
He was lettering, yeah.
And again, we're talking about he was doing what we need for the comic. He was lettering a comic. Lovely.
Another part.
One of the steps to have a comic book.
Another part, another ring of this chain.
And nothing. It was thank you very much for having me, guys.
Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you.
Do not forget to click this link. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.